What are the kind of the guidelines then when you're affiliating as an EISEN property? As I see it as a hard brand, it's a little bit more turnkey, where you can kind of there's the kind of blueprint right there, but with a soft brand, there's more, like you said, leeway as an owner, particularly from a design standpoint, what have you. I mean, what is the kind of the difference then there?
Well, when we approach developers, or developers approach us, particularly with EISEN, we want to know that they've got a plan and a story that they're going to implement at the hotel, not just, hey, I want a affiliation with the Choice Res system and I'll figure something out here.
Right.
We want to know, and most of them do. Most of them come, hey, this building was an old warehouse that had this sort of history to it, and I'm gonna bring that history back and infuse that history into the design of this building and really kind of make it come alive again and tell that story to our hotel. So from a design and development perspective, we hope that they come to us with a plan. We are a brand company. I wouldn't say we would be accused of being the most creative folks. That's where the guys like Harry and Guadalupe, all these developers who do a great job having this phenomenal vision of what these properties can be when they look at either a piece of dirt or an existing warehouse or even an apartment building that could be transformed into a hotel through an adaptive reuse. So hoping they have some vision, and then just analyzing it from a financial perspective. Okay, is this a market we want to be in? Do we think we can bring to bear all the benefits that Choice can deliver, or is it going to be in a market where we just don't have a lot of guests going? And if it is, we'll say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. It's not. I don't think it's going to be successful. But if it's a high barrier to entry market, or an urban market, or a leisure market where our guests are going and where people want to go, we're going to take a really hard look at it to see how we can make that work. And
smart. But to follow up with what Mark and what Jerry was saying, the owner or the developer, which I'm sure you do with your projects, is that there's a lot of dollars spending up front to write that story, craft that narrative, to be able to come to EISEN and say, here's my 1879 building that used to be a cotton factory, that this happened here, and we're gonna grow that story, and it's been abandoned, and we're gonna revitalize that story and that narrative and the name, and just the whole 2-page kind of branding statement is huge. And it's kind of a challenge because it's not something the traditional hotel developer is used to either doing up front or spending that $10,000 to $50,000 investment of just coming up with a branding identity before they actually go and talk to somebody. So it's,
Harry, I'm glad you brought that up, because we went through a process of doing the branding first and an autograph collection property, and then do the design. Looking back in retrospect, it seems like the right order to do it, but I would bring the design company in with the branding process with the company that's helping us write the story. I think it's very important to have the team together right from the get-go and make sure it's coordinated, because otherwise you go back, you've got to do a lot of backfill.
Yeah, luckily,
and re-theming if it doesn't design.
So you're doing
right.
the branding first before they brought the design?
Yeah, we did, and I probably in the future, because we got another autograph on the way, and I'm going to hope to do a third send. But I'm going to take a little different approach. I think it's not that the whole idea of doing it in pieces. I don't think works as well as bringing everybody together at the same time and having it as part of the team.
Yeah, I'd say typically we've gone the other way selfishly, because as the designers, we're usually starting and then recommending at a certain point after we maybe had some conversations with the brand, saying, okay, now we need to bring in a branding company. And that's not always successful.
It's awkward, isn't it?
Because now we're setting a certain path. And they're saying, well, did you look at this strategy? And we didn't, but we're down the road, and you need everybody there in the beginning.
So you would like to have that process done together?
From day one.
Yeah,
at some point, someone always has to be there first, and it's a little bit.
But experience does give you that idea that it's probably smoother and comes out. Execution is easier to do.
Yeah, more of a hand-in-hand communication, because that's with everything. It's developing that story together, and as architects and designers, we're kind of molded to think a certain way. As creative as we are, the branding part is a whole different side of the brain too, that just is really important.
Yeah, and just to kind of build on that, I think these independent hotels or soft branding really has this magnificent way of unlocking revenue and opportunities out of real estate that otherwise would have just had no further use. He did it in Boston with his hotel. He did it with a hardware store, old paint store that was closed for years in downtown Florence. And
There was a hardware store?
It was an 1891 hardware store.
That's
I think,
really cool.
I think what Mark's touching on is Florence is a perfect story for that, in that we were a market that was upper upscale select service, and we were able to kind of move through that rate ceiling that was there with what Ascend offered, and what we were able to create in a market that everybody else looked at and said, there's no way a full service hotel works.
Right.
Was it cheaper on the construction site with all the hardware materials?
You had it all there. You have to,
I think we have a similar story where we have two hotels in that category. We converted a nursing home which was shut down for years, which nobody looked at. It was on the market for 1.3 million. Nobody looked at it, in the middle of Boston. We made it into a 40-room independent hotel, and it's thriving now. And that gave us the confidence to do another one. You know, when we talked about doing a hotel in Everett, everybody laughed at us, including Ascend. I was like, really, Everett? Who wants to put a hotel in Everett? Now it's a very successful, you know, adaptive reuse building.
sorry, Everett,
Massachusetts.
Everett, Massachusetts, okay.
There's a small little project going up near there called the casino.
That helps.
It's really, really important. Taking away the rate ceiling, right? With these hardcore brands, even Choices brands, all the brands out there, there's a rate expectation that comes with that name, whether it's a Courtyard, a Comfort Inn, a Hyatt branded product. People in their mind say, oh, that's a good value, or it's not, whatever they're being charged. If you have an independent hotel and it's unique and people show up and the room and the finishes are there and the services are there and they're delivering on that local promise, and these people are quoted, 30% higher than what they'd have to pay at a Courtyard, they'll pay it
right.
because it's an experience. And people today more than ever, particularly this millennial set, right? They're more into the experience that they're having and talking about, hey, I stayed at this really cool, unique hotel that used to be a sewing factory or whatever it was, and that's really important to
Unless you're something, they're not staying at Airbnb, right? And they're staying with a soft. That was one thing. It was staying with a soft brand over using Airbnb.